World of Warcraft Midnight just came out, but we already have a breakdown for 12.0.5, and it's shaping up to be quite a bit more than what we thought it was going to be with just the roadmap. Hello, everybody, it's your boy Jmulls, and what the heck is a Void Assault? So with the 2026 roadmap, we knew 12.0.5 was going to have Void Assaults and Prop Hunt. Now, it has all this crap, but it does seem as if they're going to alleviate my biggest concern when it came to Void Assaults. You see, because it's Blizzard and we just had Legion Remix, my main concern was that Void Assaults were just going to be Legion Assaults from Legion, but instead of green, they were going to be purple. And they may still be kinda like that, but it seems as if they're changing them up a little bit here. There are two main elements to them, the Void Strike and the Void Incursion. And it seems as if Void Assaults take place primarily in two zones, or just in two zones from the sound of it, Eversong Woods and Zul'Aman. It's a weekly rotation, at least for the Void Strikes, in terms of where they take place, and when you beat one, they're going to have another one in another part of that zone for the week. And then we also have Void Incursions, and they take place when enough Void Strikes have been completed in the zones, and will apparently take the might of many Azeroth's champions to defeat them. Does kind of concern me that they are just going to feel like a glorified world boss, which are never particularly that compelling or fun. Or if you remember the Nightfall campaign of the War Within, how it always ended off with that giant like boss fight they did that just kind of felt like a sack of health. You dodged some swirlies, GG. They get old kind of quick. I do hope Blizzard can find a way to make these far more like compelling and interesting gameplay wise. Though let's say I am going to be pessimistic until we see otherwise. Now, I wanted to try this on the PTR, but the servers aren't up, so, well, what are you gonna do? There is another component to Void Assaults here, and I think this is where we really start to see the Legion Assault inspiration come into play here. Remember how Legion Assaults used to end off with a little scenario? You would queue into it with like a couple of other people, and then you would just do a small instance? Well, it does seem as if they've separated that component from the regular assault itself. So alongside Void Strikes and Void Incursions that you do in those zones, Zul'Aman and Eversong, you have these separate instances, 1 to 5 player instances, so you will be able to solo them, starring power-hungry Naga and Twilight's Blade cultists. If you've done some side content in Eversong, it is interesting story-wise that the Naga are having this like increased role and relevance in the story. It does make me curious as to where we're going in the future. As you take on greater challenges, you'll be able to receive greater rewards because by doing ritual sites, it'll fill in the world content slot in your Great Vault for the week. Now, the wording here is interesting to me. In ritual sites, you'll choose some of the challenges you'll face as you climb through the tiers. If this gets like progressively more difficult, almost like a distilled version of like maybe Torghast or something, I think that could be really dang compelling. Again, entirely, like everything else in this game and life overall, entirely depends on the execution. You could have a really great concept here, but if everything's just a walk in the park and it just feels like overworld content, it's not going to really amount to much. Players will earn field accolades from both Void Assaults and ritual sites as currency they can use to purchase champion and heroic quality gear and rewards. As is kind of the standard course for Blizzard now, the .x5 patch is kind of a catch-up patch, and this seems to be a catch-up mechanism. I like the sound of this. I think ritual sites to me are far more interesting than Void Strikes and Void Incursions, just because I don't have much faith in overworld style content like this, and my biggest fear is that they're going to make it far too simple and mechanically barren because they want like the lowest common denominator to be able to clear these. Particularly when it comes to like Void Incursions, these just sound like glorified world bosses to me. I would love to be proven wrong here. I just don't think I'm going to. Ritual sites though, feels like these exists to appeal to someone more like me who may read something like Void Assaults and Void Strikes and Void Incursions and say, this might just be kind of slop content. If you want something with a bit more bite to it, ritual sites might be far more up my alley. I feel like that's an intentional part of their design when it comes to this, and I'll be interested to see how it actually pans out. Speaking of ketchup, we have this thing called the Void Forge. Help a Dominar Decimus build a Void Forge to begin transmuting nebulous void cores, which are transmutable into powerful equipment upon defeating powerful foes in Midnight Season 1. Let's go through the list, people. Raids, Mythic Plus, Bountiful Delves, and Prey Hunts on Nightmare difficulty. I do like how we have quite a few different options for this. Does make me wonder how they're going to scale the item level. Like, will LFR suffice? Would it give me the same item level as like Mythic? Same with like Mythic Plus. Is a Mythic 2 count the same as like a Mythic 10? And how do we factor these into the equation? It'll be interesting to see. After unlocking the Void Forge, Decimus will require additional assistance, of course he will, to craft the Ascendant Nil Hammer. And besides sounding like a Glory Hammer song, allowing players to upgrade their weapons and trinkets to new heights by collecting Ascendant Void Cores. Not particularly sure where we get Ascendant Void Cores because these are apparently different from Nebulous Void Cores that you make equipment from. Ascendant Void Cores are what you upgrade weapons and trinkets with. Sounds alright. I'm kind of glad they're at least experimenting with different kinds of catch-up systems instead of just relying on the same method over and over and over again. I have my own issues with the seasonality of World of Warcraft, but that's an entirely separate discussion. And this largely just seems like another, well, catch-up system. And we also have some clarification on Nebulous Void Cores and Ascendant Void Cores, one of the main catch-up mechanisms in 12.0.5. Nebulous Void Cores are the things that you like exchange for an actual piece of gear. Upon defeating a Midnight Season 1 raid boss or completing a Mythic Plus dungeon, Bountiful Delve, or Prey Hunt on Nightmare difficulty, players may choose to spend their Nebulous Void Cores to receive a random item appropriate for their loot specialization from that activity. After receiving an item in this way, it is removed from that loot pool until all eligible items have been obtained on a per difficulty basis. So it is random, but there is a mechanism in place to make sure you don't just get a bunch of duplicates. For example, receiving the Ranger Captain's Iridescent Insignia Trinket from the Crown of the Cosmos encounter in the Void Spire on normal difficulty will not remove it from consideration on heroic or mythic difficulty. That way you can still get the upgraded version of that item through this system. The item level of Mythic Plus rewards from Nebulous Void Cores is equivalent to Great Vault rewards from that Keystone level, i.e. Myth 1/6 at Keystone level plus 10 and above. So it's not as if there's just one pool of rewards for Nebulous Void Cores, regardless of the difficulty. You can probably have expected this, but it's nice we actually have clarification on this. It does depend on the difficulty of the content you got it from. Upon completing the Void Spire Crown of the Cosmos encounter on normal difficulty while carrying Nebulous Void Cores, a marksmanship hunter would be offered the following bonus loot prompt. So it's not 1-for-1 because the cost for this bonus loot item is 2, but this one down here for the Mythic Plus Keystone level plus 10 from Windrunner Spire only costs 1. Curious and curiouser. And it also tells you what the pool of items you could get an item from is. So for this one, it's one of these 4. This one, it's one of these 8. So while you seemingly can't specifically target one item itself, you can target the content that item comes from. So if you just want like this one item that comes from Crown of the Cosmos, you could make sure you keep doing that fight every lockout you can to make sure that at some point you'll get the item, whether RNG early on or process of elimination. Blizzard are feeling a little bit cheeky here. Some of you may be wondering why some items are missing from these examples. This is because, despite the common misconception, not all loot is hunter loot. As a hunter myself now, I disagree. Besides maces, who needs those? Okay, here's the catch. Decimus will offer Nebulous Void Cores to the player in exchange for a choice of valuable resources including gold, gold sync, Voidlight Mare. Oh, that's an L. I've been missaying that the entire expansion. Voidlight Marl and Veteran Dawn Crests. Ew. Have you seen how expensive Renown rewards are this expansion with Voidlight Marl? Brother, I'm not spending that on actual gear. I have housing decor I need to get. It does kind of seem as if there's going to be a gold sync now, but I guess they give you the option. I mean, sure. The total number of Nebulous Void Cores available to a character increases by 2 every week for the remainder of the season. So they are time gating it to some degree, okay? Due to the smaller loot pools and the exceptional power of raid items, these rewards will require 2 Nebulous Void Cores upon defeating a raid boss. Other endgame content, such as Mythic Plus, will only cost 1. So it's raid specifically that will cost 2. As a result, acquiring a particularly desired trinket, weapon, or ring is likely to require a similar total of Nebulous Void Cores, regardless explosive source. How are they going to determine that? For example, a player chasing a trinket from a raid boss with 3 total items matching their loot specialization is likely to receive that trinket in the same amount of time it would take to acquire a trinket from a Mythic Plus dungeon with 6 total items. Sure, cool, man. Seems as if we're making it just a little bit too complicated, but it'll probably be fine, I guess, especially for like catch-up. But still, like having a catch-up gear be time-gated in such like a stonewall way, I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, there's probably an argument here instead of just having it all available from the beginning, because then like why play the first half of the season? So it's probably a decent compromise. Now for the Ascendant Void Cores. These are the ones you use to upgrade your weapons and trinkets. Following the Void Forge's construction, Decimus will ask players to assist him in crafting the Ascendant Nil Hammer, a powerful tool capable of manipulating Ascendant Void Cores to empower worthy equipment. Upon completing this warband-wide journey, thank God we don't have to do this multiple times, players may begin acquiring Ascendant Void Cores from Midnight Season 1 endgame content, including raids, Mythic Plus, Bountiful Delves, Nightmare Prey Hunts. Consuming an Ascendant Void Core infuses an eligible weapon or trinket with additional power to increase its item level. Once fully upgraded, hero, myth, and maximum quality Radiance crafted weapons and trinkets are eligible to become Ascendant Void Forged. So you have to fully upgrade them first and then go even further beyond. So it seems Ascendant Void Forge for a myth track item that's fully upgraded goes all the way up to 298 item level. Really not much to talk about with Decor duels. I mean, seems they changed the name relatively recently because on the roadmap it was called Prop Hunt. For those that don't know what this kind of mode is, it's found in quite a few other games and they're just kind of lifting the concept and putting into World of Warcraft. It's glorified hide and seek, where the people that are hiding are able to turn into various pieces of decor and are supposed to blend into the environment. And if you're the seeker, you have to spot the inconsistencies in the environment and find all the people that are hiding. You'll earn new rewards, including a mount, toys, and housing decor through the bite-sized event. I like it when Blizzard does stuff like this. I like that it breaks up the flow of play. I like it gives a bit of variety, breathes new life into some of these like locations. A great way to utilize like Silvermoon City. I could have sworn during their breakdown of what's coming in 2026, they also said housing neighborhoods would be like in the map pool. This only says Silvermoon City. It's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but not like it rewards like player power or anything like that. I think in an MMO, it's good to have little events like this, especially when they give you variety gameplay wise. I don't want everything to just be like combat, you know? And on this episode of Blizzard lifts a mechanic from another MMORPG and puts into WoW, we have Abyss Anglers, spearfishing from Final Fantasy XIV, basically. Dive deep into the shimmering waters of Zulamon's rugged coast, where schools of exotic fish swarm just beneath the surface in a new repeatable event, Abyss Anglers. I'm Jeremy Wade, and on this episode of Abyss Anglers, team up to spear as many as you can like Goldberg, and rack up points to unlock fishing rewards and upgrades to your diver gear, allowing you to venture deep into the abyss where the greatest treasures await. Funnily enough, I did make the comparison to Final Fantasy XIV before. This actually does sound like it's more in-depth, though it's not like I have that much experience with the mode in Final Fantasy XIV myself. Seek out depth diver Jeju to suit up and enter the depths, zip through whirlpools, catch creatures with your harpoon, and discover treasures amidst the underwater steam vents. Prove your mastery to earn dive equipment upgrades and cosmetics. I do wonder what's the purpose to these dive equipment upgrades. Now, for the lore heads in the audience, you might remember a quest chain in Hollowfall from the War Within, where we dealt with like these like squid, like abyss entities. With them in this patch, especially with the Void Assault, having more emphasis on the Naga, building off those side quests we had in Midnight's like Eversong Woods by itself. Now we have this event where we're diving underwater and we're building up this dive equipment. I do wonder if they're trying to build to some kind of like underwater zone eventually at some point. Maybe something like Vashj'ir again. It's like, I know that zone was rather contentious back during the days of Cataclysm. I really liked the zone. Yeah, it was slow, but dude, it was really cool. And if they're willing to try something like this again at some point down the line, I think that could be a really interesting twist. But I will say this, 12.0.5 seems to be way chunkier than, well, the roadmap kind of presented it as. It's more than just like Prop Hunt and Void Assaults. And Void Assaults themselves seem to have more meat on them than they were kind of presented as being. I think this is a positive. We also have some development notes and something pretty cool with Drakthea, Chosen Identity. Basically, you get Battle Visage. So if you want to maintain your non-dragon form in combat, it'll only swap to the dragon form for the spells that specifically need it. I know not everyone plays like Drakthea Evoker, but that's pretty cool. And hey, my main survivor survival hunters getting buffed, so it's an S tier patch by just doing that, you know? Winners win. I like the look of 12.0.5. It will heavily depend on the execution of Void Assaults naturally, but I do like the sound of ritual sites. And with how much more substantial 12.0.5 is shaping up to be compared to how it's like presented here in the roadmap, it does make me wonder what the other patches are going to look like. But here's where you come in. Leave a comment down below with your thoughts, your opinions on 12.0.5. Are you liking the looks of it? How do you feel about the catch-up system? What do you like about it, or what concerns do you have? I would love to hear your thoughts, hear your opinions, and hear your perspectives. And while you're down there, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and helps support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. And while I have my reservations with the main story of Midnight, the endgame, I've been really liking it. And I also think it contains one of the best characters World of Warcraft has seen in ages. Want to find out more? Check out this video right here. Thank you all for tuning in. Stay safe, have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Until we meet again.